Good evening. Today is Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. I would like to call this Fairfield Township Organization meeting to order. Trustee Michael Birdie.
Present.
Trustee Shannon Harkemeyer.
Here.
Trustee Joe McAbee.
Here.
I would like to start with Pastor Joe French to give the invocation, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we thank you for the opportunity just to be here. Lord, we thank you for a nation that you've given us, a little place where this world still looks to liberty and freedom. Lord, I'm thankful for a new year, new opportunities. I pray you might have your blessings on the township, those that guide it to fiscal responsibility and the future. Lord, not only our future, but the future for the generations to come. We pray you might have your hand on America, have your hand on us, have your hand on our home and our land and those that we love, our neighbors. Help us to be neighborly one to another. Lord, guide us in truth. Give us ever thy truth to guide our path. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wanted to make a suggestion, I guess, about the elections and how to proceed with the election of officers. I looked at the Ohio Revised Code and Robert's Rules of Order, and there's really no hard and fast rule as to how to do the election of officers with respect to a three-person board. What I would suggest, if it makes sense to the trustees, is that the floor be open for nominations, and then if a nomination is made and gets a second, then that there can be a vote up or down on any nomination that's made and gets a second. If there's a nomination made that doesn't get a second, then that would not get a vote. And then after the nominations are complete, close the nominations and then do a motion to elect as chairperson or vice chairperson the nominee who gets a second, or or up and down on any nominee that gets a second. If that makes sense to you all as to how to proceed.
Sure.
So who'd like to do it this year?
I'm okay with that.
You want to do it?
Sure.
Okay. I move to appoint Michael Birdie for chairperson of the Board of Trustees.
Actually, that would be the
You nominate
motion.
him?
I'm just nominating.
You're nominating,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Close the nominations.
Second.
Motion to appoint.
Second.
Are you going to call the roll?
Are we voting on the nomination or the motion, or?
Now we're at the motion to appoint Mr. Birdie as the chairperson.
Trustee Birdie.
Yes.
Trustee Harkemeyer.
Yes.
Trustee McAbee.
Yes.
And then the same process for the vice chair.
Okay, I move to nominate Shannon Harkemeyer as vice chair.
Second?
Any other nominations? Okay, I move to close the nominations for vice chair.
Second?
And then I move to appoint
Shannon Harkemeyer as Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees.
Second?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. And we did that without 15 rounds of voting. How about that? Impressive, okay. Okay, the next motion is to appoint a 2023 EMA Advisory Council member. And last year it was Trustee Harkemeyer. Do you wish to continue to do that?
I'm fine doing that again.
Then I'll move to appoint Trustee Harkemeyer for that EMA Council member.
Second?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Wait, should I abstain?
No, you don't do it.
Okay.
Okay, that motion is adopted. The next is working on a motion to appoint a 2023 Volunteer Firefighters Fund board member. I'm not sure who was,
I've done that, but,
do you have that?
Yes, it's attached.
but if anybody else would like to be involved with that, I'm fine with it, or I'm fine continuing with it.
So to my understanding that both Trustee McAbey and Trustee Harkemeyer were on that advisory board?
Mhm.
And it's okay to appoint both of them again? Is that, or do we just need one?
We just approved the list.
I think you can just approve the.
Just approve this list, okay? Great, well then, I move to just appoint Tim Thomas, Matt Schuman, Katie Schuman, Joe McAbee, and Shanna Harkemeyer to serve on the 2023 Volunteer Firefighters Fund board members.
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Okay, the next motion is to adopt the most recent Robert's Rule of Order. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved?
Second? Any questions or comments? Okay, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
All right, that motion is adopted. Can we have the first resolution, please?
Resolution 2301, approving the Fairfield Township trustee salaries as set by the ORC. And according to my paperwork, pay for 2023 is $44.07.
$44.07? We can't afford that.
What's, oh, sorry, that's, sorry, I looked at the wrong, sorry. $123.65 greater than 10 million for township budget. Sorry about that.
And that's not to exceed 200 hours
200 days.
200 days. Okay,
Makes it 24,003 something.
just checking. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 23-01?
So moved?
Second?
Any questions or comments? Will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. Can we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2302, approving the Fairfield Township Fiscal Office salary as set by the ORC, and this time, let me go with the right budget, $33,880.
Is there a motion to approve 23-02?
So moved?
Second?
Any questions or comments? Okay, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbee?
Yes.
And that resolution is approved. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2303, establishing the mileage reimbursement rate to be based on rate established by the Internal Revenue Service, effective date January 1st of 2023, and that rate is 65.5 cents per mile.
Motion to adopt?
Second? Any questions or comments? You call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbee?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2304, authorizing the daily per diem rate for meals to be set at a maximum of $50 per day, effective date January 1st of 2023, and it does require submission and approval of itemized receipts at actual cost.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
That's the same rate as the past year?
It is.
Okay, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2305, setting the Township Board of Trustees 2023 regular meeting schedule for the second Tuesday of each month, with exceptions as needed, commencing at 7:00 p.m., attached herein as Exhibit A.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Yeah, call the roll, please.
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May we please have the next resolution?
Resolution 2306, setting the Township holiday schedule for the year of 2023, attached as Exhibit A.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any questions or comments? You call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. May we please have the next resolution?
Resolution 2307, establishing and approving the 2023 zoning fee schedule. Nothing on the schedule has changed from last year.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2308, authorizing the administrator to execute all purchases and contracts for amounts equal to or less than $7,500.
Motion to adopt.
Second? Is there any questions or comments?
Just the same as last year?
Yes.
Okay, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2309, authorizing the department heads to execute all purchases and contracts for amounts equal to or less than $1,500, also the same as last year.
Motion to adopt.
Second? Any questions or comments? I just have one question. With the rising costs of materials and things that we've experienced, is that, do the department heads feel that that is a high enough amount, $1,500, or does there need to be any kind of adjustment because of inflation? Does it cause it a hardship, it being limited to $1,500?
As long as the administrator is available, it's usually not a problem, but it would relieve some of that if the amount went up some, sure.
So why don't we, I would suggest we keep it at $1,500, but monitor if it becomes an issue, that maybe we can come back later in the year and adjust it so it doesn't become a problem. And also monitor what's like this year, so that maybe next year we need to bump it up. But if it's working so far at $1,500, then I guess we could keep it. But if it becomes more and more of a hardship, and it becomes more and more hardship for the administrator, maybe we need to adjust it mid-year. Is that okay, Mr. Bennett?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, we call the roll, please.
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
and that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2310, establishing the township competitive bidding process. This is the same that we have used all along, awarding bids to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any questions or comments? You call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
and that resolution is adopted. May we have the last resolution, please?
Resolution 2311, authorizing the fiscal officer to open purchase orders for amounts necessary for normal everyday expenses.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any questions or comments? You call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. Any board member comments? Okay, with that being said, I move that we adjourn the organizational meeting at 7:14 PM.
Second?
Will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that motion is passed, and we adjourn at 7:14 PM, the organizational meeting, and we will just move right into the regular meeting. Does anybody need to take a short break or anything? Okay. Well, it is now 7:15 PM on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023, and I call the Fairfield Township regular Board of Trustees meeting to order. And Mr. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Present?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Here.
Trustee McAbey?
Here.
Okay, the first item on our agenda is presentations. Fairfield JED Mansion. Mr. Geis?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I've gave you some documents tonight, and I'm really here to ask that the board consider an amendment to the Fairfield Township Joint Economic Development District Number 1. This was contemplated when the board passed the original JED agreement in April of 2022. The two parcels that are in question that would be added to the JED District Number 1 have now been acquired by the developer, and as part of the arrangement, the agreement was when they acquired those parcels that they would agree to have those entered into the JED agreement, and thus creating more revenue for the township and the city of Fairfield. So I'm here tonight to say that they have fulfilled that obligation. They are ready to proceed with that, and if the board would so move, we could establish a public hearing on the 14th of February, the same date that we would have the public hearing for the Hamilton JED. All terms and conditions will be the same as the existing agreement, in that we'll have the petitions executed. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have the final amendment. There was some work that the lawyer for the developer, Mr. Sporer from KMK, he needed to make some adjustments to the descriptions of the parcels. Apparently the auditor, when they went to file those, suggested some change to it, so they needed to modify that, and those should be completed and back to the township, hopefully by the end of the week.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Geis?
So does this takes care of all the rest of it except for the piece that fronts on Tylersville?
Yes, this is, these are all the parcels that were contemplated in the original agreement that was filed, or completed on April 12, 2022, that the board established on that. I think that there is some consideration from the developer that they're trying to acquire the Mahogany property as well. On that, if they acquire that, I believe that they may come back to the township and ask that that be included in the JED as well. The two parcels that are in question for this are the small parcel and the larger southeastern
Okay,
parcel.
so the small piece is part of it? The
Yes,
little
sir.
Slice there on the front?
Yes, sir.
And is that later in that's a lot of motions coming out that we make a motion
Yes.
to approve that?
Yes,
That's what you need from us tonight,
Public hearing?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
To set or so.
to set the public hearing. Okay.
Yes.
I don't have anything. Okay, thank you, Mr. Geis. I see no old business listed, do you have anything?
I wanted to do two quick updates.
Okay,
The first thing is I did some research it came up in the last meeting or so that people had concerns about getting these dropped off. And I did a little research, and there's a phone number that anybody can call, and they can put it's a live operator. You could talk to them, you can give them your name and address, and they'll take you off the distribution for list. And that phone number is 513-731-1200. I did call that number. I talked to a person, and they'll take your information. You can also go to save.com, SAVE.com, and enter in your information there, and they'll take you off of the delivery list. Now, they did say that it's going to take it can take up to 6 weeks to get removed from that list. Because it's something about how they prep things and they get them ready. So by the time they get everything into the system and the reports filed, it can take up to 6 weeks. But that is a way to get that done. And then I think Mr. Barbier had some comments on that as far as the First Amendment and whether or not we as a township could actually take action globally to stop these.
I did some research, and governments who have tried to pass ordinances or resolutions to stop people from handing out these unwanted newspapers, as long as they're just throwing them from public property onto a driveway, those have been struck down based upon the First Amendment. A homeowner can stop somebody from coming up and knocking on their door and putting it inside some screen door, the porch door, or something of that nature, but it would be probably unconstitutional for the township to pass a law that said you couldn't throw a mailer or something of that nature in somebody's driveway because it's a violation of First Amendment.
Okay. So it sounds like the best way to address that is by calling the phone number that's here on the bag or
Right.
going to the website and.
That's what most of the materials that I read say, yes.
Okay.
That's great. Anything else you have?
I can talk about it now or during board member comments, but the strategic plan, I can do that now or later.
Well, I guess that was it's old business, yeah.
Okay. All right. So on Monday, we had key members of our team come in, and we spent a little over an hour going through a planning process, a brainstorming process. Went well, lots of good ideas, and I think each of you have been emailed a copy of that. And this is just, you can see that the first question there is kind of the global question that was asked, where do we see Fairfield Township? And just for information purposes, I don't want to go over this tonight. I'm just introducing it to you and suggesting some next potential steps for this. But these are some of the results of the comments that we have. There were, I think, 5 categories that we narrowed each of those concepts into. None of these things are written in stone, but it kind of gives the board kind of if we're looking at kind of a from staff up and then trustees to kind of take a look at where we want to go and what we want to do. So what I suggest that we do as a board is to take a look at these, read through them, and think about what we like on there, what we think, what would make sense. And then we also think about things that maybe aren't on that list. Okay, as I mentioned, I did not put my concepts or my thoughts or my ideas into this. I acted more as a facilitator than as a participant. So there's a couple things like, for example, economic development, land banking, some of those things that we're doing that I think we should continue to do that we should incorporate into this. So what I would suggest that we do as a board is take a look at this, do our research, talk to department heads, and come back at the next meeting and maybe talk a little bit more about what we see and what we think and how we should move forward.
Okay, may I ask some general questions?
Sure.
Okay. If you could, when we come back to discuss it, if you could provide who was all involved as far as names and what departments they're in, and then what the individual numbers mean that are in parentheses behind the comments. And
I can answer that right now.
okay.
So what we did is we took, everyone was given a pad of yellow Post-it notes and a black Sharpie. And the question there at the top, which was, where do you see Fairfield Township in the future? Everyone was asked to brainstorm as many ideas as they possibly could in 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, so there was not a, give us your top 5, it was as many as you want?
As many
Okay.
as you want.
All right.
Okay, and we asked for ideas across the board, across the entire township, from department to department, everything across the board, internal, external. It wasn't just the fire department talking about the fire department.
Okay.
It wasn't just zoning talking about zoning. It was, people were given the opportunity to talk globally about where Fairfield Township is going across the board, okay? Then we went around and one person at a time would read an idea, and I would take the idea.
Read their idea?
They would read
Okay.
their idea,
All right.
one at a time, everyone would read their idea. I took the ideas, I put them over there on the wall, and we went around and everybody read an idea. So they were kind of randomized. It wasn't necessarily one idea or another.
Okay.
Then what we did, and this was a challenge, but our team rose to the challenge, we had to silently sort them. So we put them into the 5 categories that you see there silently. And we were looking for things that had affinities or relationships with each other. We were looking for things that might go with each other. And you can see the bold topics there were the 5 categories that everything kind of lumped, that they all kind of went into.
Okay.
Then the last stage of the process, after we put them into the categories, that we worked together to come up with those over the 5 categories and the title cards on the 5 categories. And you'll notice that they're action oriented. So there's an idea and there's something that we need to do about it. Okay. And then the topics underneath are things that we could do to support those goals. So those 5 goals kind of being the highlights, and some of the topics underneath of those being some of the things that could take place to enact those. Now, what we did at the very end, I gave everyone 6 blue dots, and then they could go up and they could vote on the things.
So 6 blue dots per person, and there
Yes.
were how many people?
How many people did we have? 12, yeah. And
Sorry,
so,
I didn't hear that. 12?
12, right.
Okay.
And so, and the thing too about the dot votes, it's not a hard and fast, well, this one had 10, this one had 6, 10 to 6, we're going to do the 10. It's not about that. It's more about looking for trends, looking for kind of what the trends are and what that looks like overall. Okay. And then the document that you have in front of us, Diane was kind enough to put that together, but that does have that overall comment. It's got the 5 subjects underneath of it with the supporting things, the supporting items underneath of that too.
And what do the numbers behind the categories mean?
Those are the votes, the dots are the
Okay.
same thing. That's the dot votes.
So they could have voted for the category, meaning I want everything in the category? Is that?
No, hold on, just let me pop that one real quick. Might be easier to show. So here's one pack. And you can see that this was, here's one that has dots. So it could be that and the dots are really for placing emphasis onto the different topics. Okay, so this one, create a long-term fiscal plan for each department. That received 5 votes overall. So people had the option of either putting it on the header card or on putting it under the topics underneath it. Okay.
Great.
And again, it's not necessarily like an election or a sporting event. It's more to identify the trends. It's more to identify kind of the thought and the general direction behind that. Okay. And the thing too, this is a feedback mechanism for the board. Okay, from our leadership team and from staff as well. And the important thing too is that staff is also comprised of a lot of people live in the township. A lot of our staff live here. They work here. They do lots of things in the community. So it kind of gives that well-rounded perspective of it as well. And so it's good. You kind of, if you have, so in the case of this one, create the long-term plan, that got 5 votes. And then as a subcategory underneath of that, you can see that some of the other, it gets a little bit more specific as to how that rolls up into that.
And then were you limited to how many times you could vote for a particular idea?
No.
So someone could put two
Absolutely.
blue stars on one thing.
They could put all 6 on one card. They could put one on 6 different cards. They could put 3 here, 2 there.
Okay.
It was more of the opportunity to place the emphasis on the things that are important to staff.
And it didn't matter which member of this group put their dot on a particular item, they carried the same weight.
Correct.
Okay.
And it was not, we did not track who put dots where.
Okay.
I'm not going to go back and analyze handwriting.
No. I just.
But it was equal.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Was there anybody there that was hesitant to use all their dots?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But again, I didn't monitor.
Well, because sometimes near the end, you're like, okay, I got 2 dots left. I'll put it there, and I'll put it there. There wasn't as much. Wow, this is really important to me as much as this is somewhat important to me.
Did y'all notice anything like that?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, again, like I think this is an important process. Again, like I didn't see the enthusiasm behind this. Is just black and white information.
I know personally, I put things for our department and police on, but I didn't see where anybody was.
Right. Okay.
I was thrilled with the participation of our group. I've done a lot of these, and our group was very efficient in moving through the process, very focused, and did a good job.
Yeah, I
Was engaged, and
I mean, there's some great ideas on here. I mean, I read this the other day when Diane sent it to Julie, and then Julie sent it to us, but there's some great ideas. I'm just curious, what they felt was more important. Like, does the same person feel making them parks more appealing, also feel that it's important to be competitive and contemporary by conducting wage analysis? I mean, that's kind of what I would be interested in hearing. Would there be an opportunity that once we look at these things that we could maybe have everybody back and they could provide us with that input? Like, okay, well, why was it that you selected this thing over the next? Is there, because you have grandchildren and you'd like to see your grandchildren have a splash pad, or that you're single and you want a Dora? I mean, so I would like to have the reasoning behind some of the selections, so I also then understand what their will is. But this is great work. I really appreciate you doing it. It definitely gives us something to work on. But I'll definitely leave that up to you to help organize. I mean, I don't know. Should we have so what your suggestion is that we kind of digest this and then interview the department heads individually, like we call them up and ask them their input? I'm sorry, you said that earlier, what we should do as trustees with this.
if it's the will of the board, what we should consider doing is reading through this, digesting it, thinking if there's other things that you would like to see on that list too.
Okay.
Like, for me, I like economic development, so that would be one that I
Sure.
would want to either dovetail in there or expound upon. One of my things, for example, that I love would be one of those adult exercise areas with the exercise equipment for adults. That's
Okay.
been something I've been interested for a long time. So that would be something I would add to this list. As I mentioned, I facilitated, I didn't put anything in there. So those are 2 examples of things that I would like to see added, or that I would want to talk about with the board to do this. What I'm kind of going back and forward with is if we want to have department heads present more of a formal plan of where you see things going, or if we just want to talk with them, because the conversation that you might want to have with department heads to drill down into some of those might be different than the conversation that I want to have. So you could use this as a jumping off point to reach out to the department heads and say, well, what do you think about this? How do you think about this? And have that conversation as a part of your process to digest this information and to move forward with that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because I would also like to know from the department heads, why didn't you vote for one of these other things? It kind of falls into your category. Is there a reason why you would not want this to take place?
And that might be, maybe we do the route of the one-on-one discussions.
Okay. Well, we can do it in a work session as well, and I have no problem with that as well.
Or maybe we do it in advance, so do that over the course of the next month.
Okay.
And then we have a conversation. We have some conversations at the next meeting.
So maybe in February, at our trustee meeting, we could come up with either a work session date that's separate from a trustee meeting, or add it on to our March trustee meeting, or?
That February meeting is pretty full right now.
Right.
There's the.
So that's what I'm saying, like set a date at that meeting for us to discuss this.
Because that might be quite a bit for that meeting. That's a lot.
Yeah.
The two JEDs and then the regular meeting too.
Okay. Trustee McAbey?
I'd like to know which 6 did not want a steakhouse. We've got 6, but there were 12 people.
Well, that could have
Probably
been,
not steakhouses. Exactly. We need to get to the bottom of
well, it could
that.
have been 3 people that voted twice.
True.
Saying,
Well, I mean, and it, as, like,
so 50%, you can read that,
No, I mean,
we can make it say anything we want to support, right?
right, and I understand that you're sort of jesting about that, but in reality, why didn't you vote?
Exactly.
But
Well, there's only so many dots.
there's only so many dots, and what is more important? I mean, and, our police chief
Second
doesn't
highest number.
live in
Number on here.
He doesn't live here, so he's like, I don't care if you have a steakhouse, we have some in Dayton, like.
He eats once every day after he gets his donuts. He eats every day somewhere in the township, so.
Okay,
But there's 10. 10 is the biggest number and 6 is the second biggest number.
right,
So again,
okay. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in working with this further. So I guess our task as trustees is to, mull over this, and then over the next 4 weeks before our next meeting, try to reach out to the department heads and find out more information as far as, was it somebody in your department was it mainly your department that was strong on this, or was it other departments, and the reasons why? And so,
again, I don't know if they'll know the answer to that or not, but I liked your idea of having a group work session
with everybody back.
with one at a time and talk to them about their department and where it fits in with these items.
Okay.
Myself, whether we do it all in one day, start at 8 a.m. and go until we drop, or
I hesitate to have it at a trustee meeting just because this is probably going to take.
No, but we should do a work session or a retreat, or, school boards, you guys love retreats when you have,
I would not do this particular activity, the affinity, the facilitated affinity. I don't know that I would do that again for this exact same thing. I don't, because we did it and it's.
I'm not asking them to do it, but maybe explain.
And I don't know that it doesn't necessarily lend it to that. That would be more of a, I don't necessarily want to, it doesn't really lend it to that. I don't want to necessarily bring people in and say, well, why is it, I don't know that we're going to get the answers you're looking for in that kind of a format.
Okay.
But what I would recommend is let's reach out and talk to the department heads and have the discussions with them too, because ultimately if there's something on there about the fire department, chief's going to want to weigh in on that. All the chiefs are going to want to weigh in on what those things are. So that might be the better tact, is to say, okay, given these things and given what your other strategic plans are, how does this dovetail? And then we have conversations about that.
Okay. I am on board with doing more research with the department heads on this information and the administrator and the fiscal officer.
Yeah.
Because people from their departments were involved with this, so. Okay. And then I think under old business at our February meeting, we should at least touch on it to say, how are we going to move forward? Are we going to have a work session, or are we going to individually continue working on it? And then that's it. I'm not going to have a discussion about it.
Well, and ultimately, this is a good first step and a good tool for the board to come together on consensus for how we want to move forward with each of the departments.
Okay.
And that's the intent.
Yeah, when I first looked at this and it said, in parentheses, 5 to 10 years, and the first thing said 6, I'm like, okay, so they want it done in 6 years. This one down here's 5 years.
And it's just points.
Yeah, it's points,
It's just
okay.
these guys
Oh,
right
is that
here.
what they mean?
When I first started reading it, I'm like, okay, within 5 to 6 years, okay.
Was it taped? Was the meeting, was this,
Or was not,
No,
you weren't there?
I was at a funeral.
he had, Assistant Chief Schuman was here for that. He attended. And he represented Chief provided some responses in advance of the meeting, which were incorporated into this exercise.
Great. Well, again, I thank you for taking this on, and I think this is definitely something we can build on. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then we have items for board discussion, the 2023 Community Health Assessment.
I've been invited to attend that meeting tomorrow morning in Hamilton. I will learn more about what that is and report back. Just as an FYI, that's what I'll be doing.
And who's putting this on?
The commissioners.
The commissioners, okay. Great. Okay, then move on to communication. This is a portion of the meeting where you, the residents of Fairfield Township, are invited to share your thoughts with the board. Please note that this time has been set aside from the board to listen to you. Your comments are valued and will be taken into careful consideration. The board will not engage in dialogue at this time. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. And Ms. Maria has signed up again tonight. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Maria Tangi, 1891 Harvard Street. Here also representing 5 Points Community Garden at 1881 84 Harvard Street. But first thing I want to note, I wasn't here last meeting and I decided to watch it online. It was my daughter's birthday. We were baking biscotti, and I just want to let you guys know that if you're not on mic where you can hear it, we cannot hear you on YouTube at all. So like all this little side discussions, and when you were talking at the last meeting, I had my volume at full blast and couldn't hear what the discussions were because it was just like blah, 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 and you can't hear it if you're not actually on the mic. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And I was like, all the things that people aren't getting to hear right now because you're not on the mic. So that's the first thing. And I wanted to thank Jeff for emailing me a couple months back saying, hey, you want this leaf? And it was so many bags of leaf, it spread about 50 by 75 feet of our garden. So it is completely full of leaf mulch, which is really exciting, so that we can have some nutrients and coverage for our garden. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that there's a student group at Dayton for their senior project who's decided to take on Fairfield Township's 5 Points Community Garden. And they started a little fundraiser, and I met with one of the people in the group yesterday, and we talked about the things that we needed and maybe wanted. So here are some of the ideas that we're going to be working on, they are going to be working on for us. They're going to clean up our parking area. Last year we were given some gravel. It has kind of moved away. Grass has grown over it, so they're going to try to clean that up a little bit, refresh it for this year. Maybe clean up some of the overgrowth. They cut it back last year, but this year we're going to have some more. So the tree growth that's coming from the fencing, we're going to work on that. I found out that they have a dump truck, so I finally might be able to get this manure. We'll see how that happens. Let's see. One of our signs fell over and broke, so they're going to help put that back together. And with the money, some of the items that I was interested in getting are cattle panels, like the galvanized steel cattle panels, so that we can use them for trellises, like arch trellises, and to grow, vine growth, so it's up and not on the ground. So that'll be really exciting. I can't wait to see what this looks like. Next year, we'll get them all out. And then some soil for our raised beds and potentially some more cinder blocks to maybe add an additional raised bed. We've added a raised bed this year. I've had somebody say, hey, I have like 50 cinder blocks. I'm like, I'm on my way. So I ran and grabbed them. We have a raised bed now. And then this year, we're going to work on hugelkultur bed, which is called, hugel means mound in German. So it's a mound garden, and it'll be about 5 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet, and it's a way to grow more on elevated property. So those are the things that we're working on and moving forward for this 2023 growth season, and I hope to have a lot more stuff this year than we did last year. So I think that is all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Tangi. Okay, we move on to fiscal officers' recommendations and reports. Mr. Schultz?
The only thing I have is that we did close the year-end today in UAN, and all the financial information went to Mr. Baston to do our financial statements for 2022. So that's all I have for you. I'll let you know when they're out for your review.
Any questions for Mrs. Schultz? Okay, we move on to letter B, recommend motion to suspend the readings of the minutes for the following meeting, December 13, 2022, regular trustee meeting. I move to suspend the reading of the minutes.
Second?
Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birdie?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier? Yes. Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Move to adopt?
Second? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birdie?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier? Yes. Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birdie?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier? Yes. Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that motion passes. Administrator's report, Mrs. Vanderhaar?
Thank you. The only two things I had were to let you know that the Hawksworth blood donation drive was a success. We had that the same day as that was Monday. And thank you. There were many employees that volunteered and some residents, so thank you to all those who participated. And the other thing is I recently just learned that there is a ribbon cutting for Bigsby Coffee. Sent that email to the board. It's this Thursday at 11:30 a.m. That's all I have.
Thursday, 11:30 a.m. And they are located in the Menards shopping
Correct, yes.
area. Okay.
I will not be able to attend as I have OKI in Cincinnati.
Okay. I'll put it on my calendar to be there at 11:30.
They're early.
Be there early. Actually, Mrs. Birdie and I have already visited, and they were quite welcoming, and it's a beautiful place and nice location, so look forward to going there for the ribbon cutting. Any other questions for Mrs. Vanderhaar?
You had a phone call with ODOT on Friday. Can you tell us what came of that?
We canceled it. We did not end up having the conversation because the open house wasn't held.
So you're talking this week with ODOT?
Meeting with Dan Corey on Friday.
And what's the topic?
It's the North Hamilton crossing, just to get all information that he has and help me get up to speed.
I mean, the board's been pretty clear, right? Is the board clear on where we stand on the project?
I think we're clear that we don't want our resident forced into doing anything they don't want to do.
I do have some questions about the entire process and some of the details. I don't think I think we're all in agreement on our thoughts about the Bonham Farm and the property, but I plan on seeking some additional information because I don't believe that I have all of the full information. So I'll be having some conversations with various sources so that I have a better grasp of that.
That's a great idea. I had planned on talking with Mr. Smith from the city of Hamilton and just getting more information about it.
Yes.
I think there's been a lot of misinformation out in the general public about what this project is, the hardships on the residents of not only Fairfield Township, but the city of Hamilton. And I also want to know what kind of economic impact it will have on Fairfield Township. And what kind of, I'd like to talk with the Bonhams more about, what kind of hardships it's going to create for them. I'd like to know all that information. And I was disappointed that, we all kind of set our calendars to have a meeting tomorrow evening, and but there was, again, misinformation about what that meeting would even look like. And so the state ODOT recommended canceling that meeting and just having everybody come to the informational meeting on the 23rd. Is that Fillmore Elementary? Is that where it's supposed to be?
It's the elementary on Fair Avenue.
On Fair Avenue? Fairwood? Okay. Yeah, and of course, according to the TID meeting that was held on Monday, that's even going to be more just of an informational type meeting, not really a question and answer session for the residents. They're going to give residents 45 days to submit questions about the project so that they can then respond back to residents. So I'm interested to see what that's going to look like, and I would like to get more clarity from Joshua from the city of Hamilton, and also Dan from TID about what is being asked of Fairfield Township, what is being asked of Fairfield Township residents, and what that project is going to look like.
Yeah, I wish I could answer any of those questions for you. I've been to every meeting, and they have shared no information on the economic impact of Fairfield Township.
Right.
Actually, the only part I think we agree on is it's a negative, because they want at least 30 acres of the Bonham Farm.
Right, that's my understanding right now, and from what I have taken from those stakeholder meetings is the reasoning for going through the Bonham Farm was to enhance the economical development for the city of Hamilton. And so, because going through that parcel of the Bonham Farm, to my understanding, according to those stakeholder meetings, it was not the best route. It was going to cost the most. It was going to have the least impact on taking traffic off of High Street. And so I couldn't piece together with them, why are you going that direction, until it came down to the pros of using it, and it said the economic development. And when pressed for answers about what that meant, it meant that the property that they are acquiring, a developer could develop that area. So I know there's a lot of information flowing out on Facebook, which it's not always a good place to get your information, but there's several groups. There's a group, Save the North End Ball Fields. There's another group, Save the North End. And they're pushing out a lot of information. And so I know that Dan had said at the meeting, at the TID meeting on Monday, that he was going to put out signs around all the city of Hamilton, and also in St. Clair Township and Fairfield Township, and was asking if he could put a sign out on the corner of our administration building to notice the meeting for residents to attend. And then the next sentence was, but it's not going to be a question and answer type meeting. It's going to be more, we're just going to tell them how we got where we are now so they understand. And then questions can be submitted and vetted. So I think that's kind of interesting. So I want to hear more from the city of Hamilton what that means as well.
Yeah, and the information from the city manager's office through Mrs. Bondahar to us, the you know, the new alignment on the east end showing development along each side. That was interesting. That's the first we've seen of that. I know of.
That was never mentioned before.
And again, is that a plus or a minus for us where the road goes and the type of traffic that's going to be on it? And again, what about Princeton Road? You know, that came up early on. Months ago, we asked about, you're going to bring it right here and drop it on Princeton Road that's already overused. So what's that going to look like?
Right.
The last number that was in one of the emails flying back and forth recently was $100 million for 3 miles of road. So again, there are a lot of information that we need and we're not getting, and we're not going to get it on the 23rd. When that sign shows up, I would like to see us relocate that sign to down right there where Hampshire runs into Princeton. So people that drive that area every day, and some of them are going to want it. You know, I'm not saying they're not, but I think those are the people that are going to be more directly impacted if that comes in there and it's a 5-way boulevard type place that's 100 feet from the back of their houses. And again, nobody's answering any of those questions. Mrs. Bonham approached me about reading a statement to the TID board, and I asked her to print it, and I would give it to each one so they could, you know, read it and take it home or whatever. And that's where that came from, which basically says the same thing. Hamilton went out and had one conversation with them, but they do not have a deal to do a land swap or anything like that. And then some of the questions that were asked yesterday on the sidebar of the meeting, that was those questions made me have more questions. So again, the 23rd is only a week away. I don't know what we're going to do as far as advertising it, but you know, I'd like to see us do something to get as many people down there to get as much information as they can, you know, to be involved in that.
I think we could request more than one sign.
Well, we can print our own signs. We need to do something. I mean, it's not on the website yet that there's a meeting coming. So again, I'm not sure what we're going to do, whether we're actually going to do the postcard we talked about it a month ago. I don't know if that's ready to be sent or it's already been dropped, or again, Facebook is not really the only place we should be using to try to put the word out.
Let's talk about a postcard. What should that postcard say? And we talked about trying to get information out about the Veterans Memorial as well. So should we include that information on that postcard? If we're doing a mailing, should we put a lot of information on there, or are you afraid that might overload?
Well, I think it's too late to, if it's not being printed now, I think it's too late to do anything but.
We'll probably turn some over in a week, probably, and get it mailed out, and they'd have it. I mean, it's 13 days from today.
Right.
So if we get something turned around in a few days, they'd have that information before the meeting.
It would have to go out by Friday with the holiday on Monday and the way the mail service goes.
Yeah.
They would have to have it by Thursday or Friday of next week in order to be productive. So again, I don't know how far along we're in that process, but
Well, could we have Mrs. Von der Hart put together an idea of what the postcard would look like, and how quickly she can get it out?
yeah, again, I thought we were in the process of doing that from the last meeting. Whether it was the meeting we wanted to have or that meeting, and we need a link on there so they can, you know, link into the virtual open house that's going to last for 45 days. We need any of that information, get it in their house so they can use it or not, but at least try to do that.
Mr. Bonner, could you reach out to our vendor to see how quickly we could get something turned around, and then, you know, what that cost would be to you, and then also if you could maybe put something out to the 3 trustees about this is what's going to say. That way, if there's any pushback, and we'll have hours to get back to you.
I'll have that to you tomorrow.
Okay, that's great. Because we did talk about, you know, having to get flyers about the Veterans Memorial, you know.
Oh, I want to do that too, but again, you know, if it were all ready to be printed, I would say go for it.
Okay.
But if it's not ready to go, then again, I think we need to do this first.
Okay. That's great. Any other questions for Mrs. Vonderhaar?
I had a procedural question on the North Hamilton crossing. What's the best way for us to communicate with the TID board?
Oh, the board member.
You both should be on there. You should be getting everything that's sent to any other elected official in the county. I don't know if you are or not. You could be looking at all that. You can get emails that we get as a board member.
Sign up to get on the email list?
Yeah, all you gotta do is tell Dan Corey you want to be on it.
Okay.
And, I was for years before I was on the board, so I would, again, have that information. They have a website, there's information on there, but, and of course, the meetings are the second Monday of the month, and they're open to the public. Those are really the best ways, but.
8:30 a.m. at the engineer's office.
But if we have concerns or questions, what is the best way for this board to address that?
Well, I would say if we're doing it as a board, we ought to have our list of questions and have Julie contact Dan Corey. He's a director.
Would we want Julie to do that, or would we want you to do that as the TID board member?
That's up to you. I'd be glad to do it. I contacted him and got the 3 dates for the possible meeting and had Julie send them out to you guys.
But what would that, do we want Mrs. Vonderhaar to take the lead in that, or do we want Joe as our representative on the board to do that?
To be contacting Mr. Corey?
Interactions with the TID board.
Well, I would feel comfortable with either, but I think Mrs. Vonderhaar could represent us since she's our administrator. And, we also, the three of us have other jobs that might take us away from communicating effectively with the TID. So I'd say that as far as this project, I would suggest that we have Mrs. Vonderhaar, and not prohibiting Mr. McAbee from doing that, but let Mrs. Vonderhaar be in communication to get in with, so that we're not also overwhelming the director, and then to get that information back to us. And if one of us has a question, that Mrs. Vonderhaar asks that question, and then all three of us get the response back. Trustee Harkemeyer asked this question, here's a response I got back from the director. That way we're not duplicating questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I represent the board. I don't represent myself. So
Yeah.
I bring up every topic that we've had. Been blowing the horn on this for a long time. Trying to represent our feelings as a board. So.
Any questions? Okay. Mrs. Bonner, do you have any questions for the direction you're getting from the board right now? Okay. That's great. Okay, we'll move into motions and resolutions. First motion is to set the public hearing for the city of Fairfield and Fairfield Township JED to February 14th at 7 p.m. I move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemeyer?
Yes.
Trustee McAbee?
Yes. And we already have another meeting set for 7 o'clock too already, right? We already set the other one.
Yes. Okay, that motion is passed. And the next motion is to approve a contract for legal services with Law Director Catherine Barbier of Schroeder, Mondrell, Barbier, and Powers for 2023. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second. It's at $180 an hour.
Yes.
And there's a cap on,
Cap is $120,000.
okay. Okay, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemeyer?
Yes.
Trustee McAbee?
Yes.
That motion passes. The next motion is to approve a contract for legal services with Assistant Law Director Larry Barbier of Schroeder Mandrell. Am I pronouncing that correct? Mondrell?
It's Mondrell.
Mondrell Career and Powers for 2023.
Second?
Any questions or comments?
I know it's a reassignment of duties, but we've not been disappointed with your service, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad.
You're not being demoted.
Yes, he is.
Okay. All right. Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes,
that motion is approved.
and your daughter approved you being her assistant, right?
Yes,
Okay.
she likes that in all respects.
Easy for you to say. Right.
Okay, I move to accept the resignation of Scott Smith from the fire department.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Mr. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Motion to accept the resignation of Albert Lloyd from the fire department?
Second?
Any questions or comments from the board? How long was Mr. Lloyd on the fire department? Was he long?
I think since 2014.
14, okay,
It was part-time, then went full-time, then went back to part-time.
okay.
There's no time.
Now he's no time. Too busy with kids and
Okay. All right, Mr. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that motion passes. May I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2312, approving open purchase order balances.
Want to adopt?
Second? Any questions or comments? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted. May I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2313, approving resignation of Stephen Mogul from the police department.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Any questions or comments? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted. Can I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2314, authorizing administrator to renew the contract with the Standard Company for short-term disability insurance coverage.
Motion to adopt?
Second, any questions or comments? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted. And the next resolution, please.
Resolution 2315, reappointing Joseph Statzer as a member of the Fairfield Township Zoning Appeals Board effective February 1st, 2023 for a 5-year period ending January 31st, 2028.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second,
Larry, is there a problem with him also being the county auditor and serving on the zoning appeals?
I don't believe so. Chuck asked me that question, and I don't believe there's a problem with that.
Does the ORC doesn't have anything?
I don't think so, no.
He has no direct relationship to any decisions he makes here based on property value?
I don't believe he has a conflict, let me say that. With respect to what he's doing on the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I mean, he does have some say on how property is used and developed, and his current position as auditor, he has some responsibilities for that same. So I don't know if you want to look at that more in depth before we vote, or seems like it might be a conflict to me, and I'm not a lawyer.
Right. Okay,
Well, and if it's material, he is acting. And on February 2nd, I believe, a vote will be taken to put the permanent person in, which I'm not sure he's putting in for that. There's 2 other candidates that have expressed interest. I'm not sure if he has expressed interest in that or not.
So maybe we just table this till February.
I think that makes sense because I think it starts February 1st, right? So let's table this then under those circumstances. And then if he takes the permanent position, then I'll take a further look at it. Okay.
okay, well, I move to table resolution 23-15. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Mrs. Schultz, you call the roll, please.
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Okay, resolution 23-15 is tabled until our February meeting. Mrs. Vonderhaar, will you please see that it's back on the agenda in February?
I will.
Thank you. Can I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2316, reappointing Cheryl Ledbetter as a member of the Fairfield Township Zoning Commission, effective February 1st, 2023, for a 5-year period ending January 31st, 2028.
Second. Motion to adopt, whichever we're on.
Second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Can I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2317, authorizing the administrator to enter into contract with TR Gear Landscaping for the Fairfield Township Parks at a total amount of $45,970.06.
I move to adopt 23-17. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
This is new for us. When did we decide we were going to do this?
Chuck started looking into it a couple months ago, maybe. Did we look into it a couple months ago?
I said look into it in October.
Okay. That's why that.
And so this, we're looking at the drawings that were sent out. This just beds around the walking paths and the playground. Is that what I'm understanding? The walking paths that the Bonnie Vale?
So there's landscaping proposed for both the Heroes Park here on Morris Road and the Bonnie Vale Park. The Heroes Park, it's mostly the beds along the walking path near the new playground equipment and the new concrete that was poured. All that's outside of any of the scope of work for the Veterans Memorial, but it's to address just unkept areas, just to kind of beautify the park. And then the landscaping for the Bonnie Vale Park. It's mostly little islands, little landscaped beds, main entranceways through the walking path, and there's also a number of trees around the larger loop that's currently just grass, and then additional trees in the dog parks.
Yeah, I wasn't certain if this circles were trees that were being added or they were existing. If the ones they have, are these little plus signs? Is that what they are?
Yeah, the plus signs are the new trees.
Okay, and then the bed that's over by the basketball court.
That's
the
existing.
basketball court. That's existing.
That's existing.
And then the new trees inside of the dog park.
Right.
I do know, walk around the park, those are often areas where people kind of cut through and it gets muddy and I think that these landscaped areas will help deter that.
Yeah.
And keep the park looking nicer. And I'm sure the dogs will appreciate the new trees inside of the dog park. Will they provide, in the dog park, will that provide any shading for any of the,
Yeah, they're all shade trees, so eventually.
but they'll have to grow?
Yeah.
So, because like right now, you can go to the dog park and you're in the heat the entire time.
The dogs?
Well, parents, but yeah, the dogs, but the parents as well. Parents of the dogs. So I think this is a good idea. The path at Bonnie Vale is very barren. As you're walking the path, there's nothing from the beginning until the end to stop and get out of the sun or anything if you're trying to walk that path. So I think this is a good idea. I'm excited to see that. And then I'm glad you addressed the idea that this landscaping wasn't part of Heroes Park was not part of the Veterans Memorial Project.
Yeah.
It's more or less on the playground end of that park. And there's also going to be some around the basketball, I'm sorry, both shelters.
Those shelters, yeah.
And, but none of the circles along Morris Road are new trees, correct?
Those are all existing.
All existing.
Yeah.
I do know at times that there are people that like pull their vehicles up there off of Milliken to drop off food, and I'm just going to leave my car here, whatever. So I didn't know if we needed more trees there to stop that from happening, or what are your thoughts?
Don't really have any thoughts on that specific item. So they're driving over that berm?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't seen
The
that.
shelter.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Right off the, oh,
They
okay.
park right next to the shelter.
Oh, we could put a fence through there, really. I mean,
No parking sign?
Yeah, I'm not a proponent of a fence, but
not quite a fence.
We got a fence there now, just like this,
yeah,
and they go right over.
yeah. I think a few years ago, one of our ambulances went over that, backed up to the basketball court and hit that dip, and we did some damage to the ambulance. That was a number of years ago.
We didn't bill the guy that.
We didn't bill Mr. Hare for that damage, but
And this came out Sunday afternoon in our packet, right? He's been working on it since October, and this is the first we've seen. This
Yeah, I forgot to put it as a first read.
Should have been on the new business. And now I always have a problem when we come at $44,970, so we don't have to bid it. And then I look and I don't see a second quote, so I'm not saying you didn't get them, but to me, whether it's necessary or not, we should have been, I don't know, did you know about it before you got your packet Sunday afternoon?
no, sir.
No, I didn't communicate it to anybody. And I meant to put it as a first read and did not.
I'm okay making it a first read, and I don't think there's an emergency to get this passed, to get the work done, is there? Is he under a time frame to?
They want to get things ordered just to lock pricing for trees and material, since we have so many trees out.
Did you get a second quote?
I've had 3 separate quotes. This one was the most competitive, and it seemed like they were able to stretch the dollar out a little bit more than
But you
the other two.
didn't send that to us, the other 2 quotes?
I didn't.
No, I
send that
didn't.
to you, yes.
No, that wasn't Chuck, that's me.
They've done more work for us, haven't they? Hasn't TR Gear been one of our suppliers for a number of
They
years?
did all the recent landscaping around the front and back of the admin, and the renderings are beautiful. So, and then all this, just Chuck's done the work, but he brought it to me and I vetted it, so I should have communicated and didn't earlier.
They also performed the work on Princeton Road, and again, they were
Radiance.
more competitive than pricing wise than anyone else with that also.
Yeah, I mean, and they've done good work over there, and we signed up for another year, right?
Yeah.
But again, $44,970. And 06 cents.
Well, it's, yeah,
Well, it would have been easier if we'd have seen the other 2 bids.
sure.
Or if we'd had a conversation about it prior to it showing up.
Ballpark, do you remember what those other 2 bids were?
I mean, they were all within the same realm. Price wise, it's just that they didn't get as many, trees, many plants. One of the bids just lacked like any variety as far as species of plants. And the other one was just, less. The price that they're quoting me per tree was higher. And that, whether we're getting 5 trees or 35 trees, that it was just higher.
So for this price, we're getting it, they were all about the same price, but this one had more quality product, and we know because we've done business with them before that they do a good job.
Yeah, and they stand by the products. Yeah.
I did notice on the proposals, it says location on Princeton Road medians. Even the description says Hero.
That might just be,
Park
that's what they think of us as, I guess.
on Princeton Road. But their description is where it's actually located. I know we've dealt with TR Gear before. I've had experience using them before when I was on the board at Butler Tech. I think they're a good company. They're reputable. I'm comfortable using them. And since you did seek out more than just one bid, I'm comfortable with moving on with this resolution this evening in order to get the plans ordered and to get things started. Because quite honestly, our Heroes Park is beautiful, but there are those areas where it needs to be improved, especially in these particular areas where there's going to be mulch beds and plants. I think that I always hated going by the shelters and seeing just the mud patches between the sidewalk and it was having beds there with plants. I think might even help clean up the litter that's often there. So
Sure, hopefully it'll keep the kids somewhat more contained.
Right.
Playground.
so I'm comfortable moving forward with it. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAdie?
No. For the reasons I've stated.
And that resolution passes. Can we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2318, authorizing initiation of the Fairfield Township zoning resolution amendment process.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second? Any questions or comments from the board? So this is just to adopt the process. We're not actually, because I know you sent us some adjustments to the amendments to the resolution or the zoning resolution, but we're not approving those tonight. You're just giving us
Correct.
an update.
This is just to start the process,
Okay.
and this will kick this over to the zoning commission for their review
Okay.
of some amendments. We did have this is in response to the work sessions we had with the public, the focus groups with the public, and then the work session that we had with the zoning commission in November. Based on the focus groups, the report that I provided them from the focus groups, we are kind of working on some amendments to address those items. They're not huge changes, but we're addressing accessory building height.
Instead of being 1.5 stories, they'll now be 2.5 stories. So if you live next to that, that would be a big addition.
Sure, yeah. But it's moving it from 15 feet to 20 feet. So it's a 5-foot difference.
33%.
Yeah, it's 5 feet. Oh, sure, yeah. It's probably what, a little less than 2 yards.
Yes, it is.
And then in addition to that, they wanted to create some kind of contingencies if they did go up beyond that standard 15 height to increase setbacks, to increase the setback from from the larger buildings. In addition, we wanted to clarify language that allows loading and prepping of RVs and boats in residential districts. The zoning commission liked 72 hours within a 30-day period. So the text amendments are going to look at that. So they're going to review that piece. And then we just cleaned up the language with commercial vehicles. And they were comfortable with kind of keeping it at the vehicle size that it was previously. We're just changing the language to include class 4 GVWR.
So in the last year, how many requests have you had to build a detached structure that's 2.5 stories high? Just one?
How many requests have I had? Well, way more than one. Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably a dozen. At least.
Dozen? Burn them all down?
Yeah. And this is the reason that we're looking at increasing the height of accessory buildings is there's issues with storing RVs inside of building height that's permitted. So that's kind of roundabout.
Because we have a zoning code that says you have to store your RV inside, but we have a zoning code that says, but your building can't be tall enough to store it.
That seems to be the response I'm getting.
So we're fixing that.
You're saying you had 12 of those, you had 12 of those in the last year?
Oh, it's at least, yeah. We get
From the
those.
same person, or?
No.
Any other questions?
So this will start the process.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier? Yes. Trustee McAbey?
Yes?
and that resolution is adopted. May I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2319, authorizing payment for the indigent cremation of a township resident to Brown Dawson Flick Funeral Home in the amount of $1,000.
Let's go, Doc.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier? Yes. Trustee McAbey?
Yes?
and that resolution is adopted. May I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2320, approving the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-350 from Cronin Ford for the Public Works Department in the amount of $46,887.
Vote to adopt.
Second.
Is it a hybrid?
No, sir. It's
Is it electric?
no, sir.
Don't you think we ought to be going towards electric vehicles?
Well, the thing of it is, this just kind of popped up and,
It's on sale.
absolutely. This price was $58,000 and we can get it for the $46,000. So what this would,
But we need it.
absolutely, we
We have to
do.
have it.
Gotta have it. If you don't get it today, it'll be gone next
We
week.
did one of these last year, didn't we, with the police department, I think. We had to
Yeah,
have
but
it.
I got a better deal than they did. Anyway, the way this comes about is when we sold the 2009, last year, of course, with all the issues with the computer chips, this, that, and the other, I had reached out to, at that time, Middletown Board to see if they had anything available, whether it was gas or what have you, and of course, no, there wasn't anything. So I got a call from, the gentleman from Cronin Ford, which was Middletown Ford, said that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources had wanted to purchase this, but they couldn't get the funding together. So he contacted me, asked if we were still interested, and I said yes. So we went up and looked at it. It's just like all the other F-350s we have, white, 4x4, diesel. It's already got the step bars and stuff like that on it. The only thing that we would have to do is, of course, put lights on it. So last year when we got rid of the 2009, that took us from having the 3 trucks to 2 trucks, and some of the problems that I was running into, that 2009 was utilized mainly to pull the mower trailer and stuff like that. So when we got rid of that, I was having to kind of, pull the guys off of this job and take that truck to hook to the trailer to go do this and so on and so forth. So with this, like I said, it gets us back to where we were. And now that I have a larger crew, hopefully this will allow us to get out and do more tasks throughout the year. So that's why I'm asking for the truck tonight.
Is that state bid?
Yes. Yes.
Less than state bid.
I'm sorry.
Is it less than state bid?
He told me it was state bid pricing. When I went up there, it had the sticker on it for $58,000. This is the same that Ohio DNR was getting it at. So he just basically forwarded this to me from.
You're old now.
I'm sorry.
So you're old now.
Is what finding the
It'd be less,
23?
$120 delivery fee?
Yeah, from Kentucky to the plant.
Oh.
It was built in
That's
Kentucky.
straightforward.
It was built at the Kentucky plant,
Still
Ford
down
plant
there.
in
Still down
Kentucky.
there.
No, it's in Middletown.
Oh, I see. They already paid to have it. Too.
Yes.
And what fund is this coming out of?
ARPA,
2272?
2272.
Only truck you need this year?
No.
What else?
A utility pad truck, has two boxes on the side.
Uh-huh.
That's the one we got rid of, let's see, how many years ago? Yes.
Any other questions? I appreciate you explaining the necessity behind the purchase. I know that we didn't talk about this previously, but since it came up and you didn't anticipate a vehicle being available,
Right,
but now that it is, I appreciate you reaching out and explaining why you thought it was a necessity.
thanks.
There's times when we have to be nimble
Right.
as a board and make rapid decisions, because as we've talked about last year and this year, it's difficult to find vehicles with the chip issue. So when it comes up, we need to be ready.
We got the email late last week. Tell us about it, so.
Well, I didn't get the call until Wednesday, so,
But I mean, we got that email last week, not
Oh.
Sunday afternoon.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Schultz. Will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes,
And that resolution is adopted. Well, we have the next resolution, please.
Resolution 2321, declaring nuisance and ordering abatement on the properties listed below, and further authorizing the zoning administrator to initiate complaint. Properties include 1809 Pater Avenue for junk and debris, 1478 Milton Street for unregistered vehicle junk and debris, 6149 Kathleen Court for zoning permit required and RV parking, and 5397 Shady Meadows Drive for an operable vehicle.
let's adopt.
Second? Any questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes,
That resolution is adopted. Announcements. Offices will be closed for Martin Luther King holiday on Monday, January 16, 2023. And on Tuesday, February 14, 2023, we'll have our JED public hearing with the Fairfield Township, Fairfield City JED. And we also will have our, that's also the same night as the
Hamilton, Fairfield Township.
City of Hamilton and Fairfield Township JED for the property over.
expansion of what?
Third Amendment,
Third
yes.
Amendment.
And then also we'll have our regular Fairfield Township Board of Trustees meeting all on Tuesday, February 14th at 2023 at 7 p.m. Board member comments. Mr. McAbey?
Nothing additional other than the North Hamilton Crossing public open house on the 23rd at Fairwood Avenue Elementary School on Fair Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Harkemaier?
Just what I previously mentioned, and also I'll be attending the OKI meeting on Thursday, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Board of Transportation on Thursday.
Okay, looking forward to hearing the report. I'm also looking forward to our Butler County Township Administration, or Association dinner right here at Butler Tech across the street on Thursday. Now, Mrs. Schultz was working very hard to put that together, so thank you so much. They always put on a good dinner for us, so looking forward to that. And I do want to thank my fellow trustees for your faith and my ability to help lead this board, but this is a board of three, it's not a board of one. And so I promise to work together as Trustee Harkemaier has done in the past. Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Mr. Schultz, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That motion passes. We adjourn at 8:33 p.m. Thank you all very much.
Do you want to just Just scan Katie's contract to me, I'll
Yeah.
get her to sign it.